I think we'll get started now. If you found your way into this room and are looking to participate in the seminar called How to Develop a Plan and Prioritize Your Growth Goals, you're in the right place. My first introduction is about Cathy Sexton, and she's one of the founding members of our group. She is an author, speaker, radio host, trainer, productivity strategist, and coach. Cathy's passion and desire to help others comes from her own personal experience of being a recovering workaholic, forced to deal with a stress-induced life-threatening illness. Knowing that she had to find a better way to work, Cathy is now devoted, passionate, and committed to helping others have a more productive life without risking serious health issues, job burnout, toxic stress, or missing out on time with family and friends. Despite her constant experimentation with new technologies, Cathy's current favorite activity or productivity tool is multiple monitors, and she is forever grateful to the person who invented travel on wheels or luggage on wheels. Our second speaker is Tim Dean, and Tim Dean is a certified professional coach and a recognized business executive with a passion for empowering millennials to maximize their potential to become successful leaders. A whole person coach, certified facilitator, and motivational speaker, Tim has been inspiring others to create the life they want to live for 20 years. With extensive leadership and business experience in sectors as diverse as talent, management, manufacturing, agriculture, energy, and healthcare, Tim brings a unique balance and powerful mix of strategy, creativity, and real-world insight to heavy and coaching engagement. Tim holds a Master of Science in Industrial Administration from the Tepper School of Business at Carnegie Mellon and a Bachelor of Science degree in Industrial Engineering from Penn State. We welcome our rulers and our speakers today. Thank you.
So we're here today to help you, and I welcome you all here, but we're here today to help you to find some ways and some strategies to maybe increase your goals that you can to make your business a lot more successful. So as entrepreneurs, we're constantly surrounded by traps. We're always trying to maneuver. We're always trying to figure out a better way to do what we need to do and how to do it. So we want to ask you to start off, what are your traps?
So yeah, when Cathy shares that traps, what do you first think of, or as all the business folks in the room, or if you have your own business, or even during your daily life at work, what do you feel is getting in your way? What is trapping you?
I think sometimes technology, something I think should take 5 minutes, takes 20 minutes. Because the technology is slow, or I end up taking a diversion that I don't anticipate.
That's a good point. You sometimes have expectations that this should only take a minute, 10 minutes, and suddenly 5 hours go by, and you think, oh my gosh, I'm behind even more.
Right.
Good one. What else?
Figuring out what to spend time on first, how to prioritize, because there's way too many things going, pick me, pick me.
Right, how do you decide what is the priority at any given morning? Did I see a hand here? Nope. What else?
I think the telephone is my worst trap because it's constantly ringing and I'm always reaching for it. I want to answer it because I have that sense of urgency. If it's a student calling or a client calling, I got to grab it because they need me. And so it's hard to not answer the phone.
Right. How often do we respond immediately because we want to be seen as that customer service person and therefore just in time return every phone call immediately because that's how we want to be treated?
Emails.
Could you tell me more?
I think whoever invented emails shouldn't have been born.
Whoever invented email should not have been born.
Multitasking, too many things at one time. Actually, really trying to prioritize the agenda for today. Sometimes it gets overwhelming.
Great.
Go ahead.
Letting clients who perceive something as urgent dictate your response.
You know, that's an excellent point. How do you determine which client's urgency is bigger than the next one? Because they're all urgent.
I think we had a couple over here.
Oh, okay. Anyone here? That's an interesting point. How often, because of technology, do we have devices that tell you instantly, okay, you have another voicemail, you have another email, as opposed to, good Lord, I can't get stuck in this wheel. I'll be right back.
I would say figuring out the best way to reach my customers, too.
Making lists so I'll be more organized, and I spend all day long making the lists. I don't get anything done on them. I just have lists everywhere, all over the house. Anybody else?
So the only thing you accomplish is the list, and you scratch, I did my list. That's true.
Okay, one more.
What, last one?
Yeah.
Wearing many different hats, a professional role, a family role, a personal role, just keeping all of that somewhat in balance.
Thank you.
So has everybody been able to relate to those? Yeah. Yeah, I think we all do. And even as a productivity expert, I have those issues myself. And it really is about kind of looking at that and taking the time to step back and kind of look at what can we do. And you're never going to make it great. It's never going to be perfect. And if you think it is, it's not. So just kind of realize that. But what you can do is look at how you've got systems in place, what you can put in place that's not there now that maybe can help you and alleviate some of those traps. So we have a system and that we're going to, and the traps stand for, the first one, the T is for to-dos and time, our thoughts. We have a lot of things going on. We were already mentioned a lot of those. We have a lot of things to do, a lot of things that we're going to need to put into place for someone or ourselves. And then the R stands for roles. There are many, many roles. As someone that's mentioned, all the hats that we wear. There are a lot of roles that we have to do. And we're going to go through each one of these a little bit more. And then the A stands for the activities. Are we spending our time on the activities that make us the money, that do what we do well? And then do we have plans and processes in place to make life easier for not only us, for our customers, for our employees, and then having the support we need to make it all happen. So we'll start with the to-dos, and the to-dos are basically, has anybody ever done a brain dump? So it's one of the things that I have my clients do a lot, and I always tell them that anytime you're feeling stressed, you're feeling overwhelmed with too much to do, not enough time, feel like not enough time to do it, take the time to sit down and just get everything out of your head and onto a paper. If you type it, if you write it, whatever that is. We keep all these ideas and thoughts going around in our heads all the time. There's no way to really prioritize it when it's in our head. There's no really way of being able to think about who else could be doing it. We just know it needs to be done. And it's taking up a lot of brain power, energy that we could be utilizing in an area that's much more effective. So the best thing to do is take the minute to just write down everything that's on your mind and get it down on a piece of paper. Then you can then start to sort it or do something with it. So in your handouts, on page, I think it's page 18, you already have this diagram, and we'll kind of go through it and talk about it. So we have everything already, we've taken it out of our head. We have this great big list that we need to do. Hopefully you've kind of narrowed it down a little bit. But the first thing that you have to do is you do the dump, and then you have to make a decision. And that's where a lot of us get stuck. Okay? I got all this to do, but we don't make the decision to move forward. Sometimes we really just get stuck in that spot. So there's two things that you can do. You can say no, or you can say yes. And my rule of thumb is, if it's not a heck yes, let's do it, then it's probably no for not now, right? If you aren't excited about it, or but make the decision to say yes or no. So if you say no, is it no for never, or is it no for not now? So just because you're saying no doesn't mean I'm not going to do it ever. It's just that it's not the priority right now. So when you're looking at that list, it will help you to prioritize and really get down to where I need to go, what I need to do. So in the yes section, so if you're saying yes, do I delegate it? Or do I define time that I need to do it? And the time came up a little bit earlier. And the biggest thing about time is endless. In our mind, time is endless. There's another minute, there's another hour, there's another day. In our subconscious mind, we don't really we don't have that perspective on time the way we really need to. The statistics show that it takes 1.5 to 3 times longer to do something than we anticipate. So when we think it's going to take us 15 minutes, need to start thinking that it's probably going to take you 30 minutes to 45 minutes. And that's the first step, being realistic with how much time it takes us. And that's why when we have this list, it all looks great, but there's not enough time to do it all. And then we start beating ourselves up because we didn't get it all done. But we're really actually, it's not feasible. And sometimes other things get into our day, become more priority. But we really want to think about that time. So define the time. If you're going to do it, how much time is it going to take me to do it? Then if it's back to the no, so if it's no, it's not for now, a date to review it. And just put that date, put it on your calendar, put it in a to-do that later I'm going to come back and revisit. If you're going to delegate, when is it due? Always give a due date. I don't care how minimal, how small of a project, always give a due date. Doesn't mean it can't be changed, doesn't need to be. But the problem is that I know I had this problem when I had staff that I'd say, oh, here, when you have time. Well, they were doing things for other people besides me. So my things always never had time when I would say that. And then 2-3 days later, I'm thinking, well, where is it? I gave her plenty of time. So it's always really important to make sure that you're putting a due date. And even if it's for yourself, put a due date. You can change that. But if we kind of leave it out there as whenever, it's never going to move forward. So to get things to move forward. And then if you're going to do it, define the time to do the work. When am I going to do it? So again, for you, you're going to define how long it's going to take you, and then when are you going to do it? When are you going to put it on your schedule? And then on the no side again, if you're going to review it, you're just right back to the decision part again. So you're just going to come right back to the decision, yes or no. And if you continually bring up that no as it keeps on coming up no, it probably is no for never until someday it comes back. So it's really the yes part that we're looking at. And then you're going to deliver the results. So you basically have a brain dump, decision, make a decision. If it is yes, delegate it, who you're going to delegate it to, and when is it due, and then define some time, do the work, and deliver the results. Any questions about that or comments? Why don't we wait and Tim will bring over the...
I think the challenge I often have is I'll schedule the time, and it can even be a piece of client work, and then something will happen that day that means that I then don't get that done. And if sometimes, typically that happens with something I'm doing at home for a client and there's no fixed deadline. So then it becomes a movable target, and then I'm scrambling to get it done because I feel like I didn't do it in the time frame I should have, and put pressure on myself needlessly. So it's kind of hard sometimes because I have staff and stuff crops up, and all of a sudden my day gets train wrecked.
And the best thing that I can, advice I can add to that is that if we know what our priorities are for the day, and you really should not have more than 3 to 5 for the day. I mean, you can always go get more if you get those done. But if we have just 3 priorities and you know the beginning of the day, these are the 3 things I want to accomplish today, it's much easier when that interruption comes to say, have I gotten this done? Or maybe this is now more priority. You know, but when we have a list like this to do, interruption comes, we've not prioritized this list, what else is going to happen but they're going to win? Somebody's urgency is always going to override ours if we haven't made a determination of what is important right now for us to accomplish today. So hopefully that's a little bit of help. So as gentleman said, you know, we have many hats to wear. Especially if we're solopreneurs or entrepreneurs or have very little staff or no staff, we're wearing a lot of hats. We have a lot of things to do. And all of us, even if we do have staff, we're still wearing a lot of hats, and then both personally and professionally. So we really have to be able to sort that and figure that out. So when we look at our roles, there are the good roles, our strengths, the things that we're really good at, the things that we love to do. And those are the things that we want to really base our time around, is the things that we're good at, the things that we can make things move forward on, that are going to move our company forward. And then we have the things that are bad, our weaknesses, right? So we're going to look at the good, the bad, and the ugly. So we have our weaknesses. Those are the things that a lot of times we will acknowledge. Yes, I don't know how to do that. I don't know how to do, you know, maybe marketing. I don't know how to do my website. Okay, then we need to probably hire that out. Those are our weaknesses. If we can determine what those are, it makes it a little bit easier to offshoot that to somebody else. But where the biggest trap is the ugly. And those are the ones that cost us. Those are the ones that we say, I really don't want to spend the money for that. I can probably do that. And then we spin our wheels trying to do it, and then eventually we wind up hiring somebody else to clean up our mess. A couple of the big ones that come to my mind, and I mainly, I guess because I used to be in this business, is bookkeeping. Small business owners don't. I can do that. I can do it on my spare time, and a lot of you can. But a lot of you can't, and a lot of you think you need to because you don't want to spend the money, but you're really wasting a lot of time. You put it off and you put it off because it's not something you like to do, and then that's costing you money, and then when you finally sit down to do it, it takes you 2 or 3 times as long as it would have taken somebody else. Same thing times with maybe marketing, you know, our websites, there are a lot of different things that we do that cost us a lot of money. And I have a client that I used to work with, and well, really, she has been a client at times, but she's a very, very good friend, dear friend in Florida, and bookkeeping has to be her issue. And, you know, she was constantly fighting it, and I finally said, why are you fighting this? Hire somebody to do it. It was probably the best thing she could have ever done for her company, because it just took the relief off. It really wasn't that, she's a solopreneur, so it really wasn't that expensive. And it just freed her up, not only from the time, but just the emotional part. And we don't stop and think about that emotional energy that we're producing that's really taking us down. So, help, I'm trapped. We kind of want to ask what your ugly roles are. So if you'll just talk among your table for a few minutes of just with your group and kind of tell them what your ugly one is, the one that's costing you, and then Tim will facilitate a discussion with everybody.
It's okay. Whatever you admit will stay in the room. You don't need to worry about that.
Yeah. It stays here, not going anywhere.
And the video will have no effect on that.
Okay, so what can we do to help us with all these activities, right? We have a lot of things to do. So we can think about the 80-20 rule. And the 80-20 rule is out there, and if any of you have heard me speak before, you know I talk about it a lot. You know, 20% of our clients produced 80% of our revenue. 20% of our clients give us 80% of the trouble. 20% of society uses 80% of health care. It goes on and on. For the women in the room, 20% of your clothes you wear 80% of the time, right? So it goes on and on and on. So the key here is to look at what is your 20% that's going to produce you what you need to get done. Because we can spend a lot of time working on that 20%. So we can do, so if this 20%, so these are all of our activities that we generally do maybe, let's say in a week. And really these are the ones that are going to produce this much results. So we really need to isolate what are those things that we need to be doing that are going to produce what we need. And if you can take the time to do that, and again, it's all about time, and we say we don't have time, I don't have time, I hear it so often, I don't have time to get organized, I don't have time to do this. But when we do set aside that time, the time you get back is multiple fold.
Cathy, can I share something real
Sure.
quick? In my coaching, I have many clients who express that exact frustration. Well, I don't have time to get organized. They immediately associate it to another to-do. Mm-hmm. They just add it to the hopper of, oh God, don't give me another task.
Right.
As opposed to
a solution.
Wait, this could actually help address everything in the hopper.
Correct.
Type of thing. And it's
Correct.
helping change that mindset.
Right. Definitely. Because it really is. I mean, and that's perfect. Thank you so much, Tim, for sharing that, because it is always one more thing that we have to do. But when we step back and we really analyze, where's our time going? So some of my coaching clients, when I realize time is a really issue for them, I will have them do a time study. And yes, it's a lot of work and it's a lot of time. But what they get from that at the end of the week is amazing, because they really see where all their time is going. They can see very easily, is it making their money? Are they spinning their wheels? What are they doing? And then it makes it a little bit easier to offsort. So time is money. You know, we talk about the email. Let's just talk about email real shortly. And that is, you know, when we used to do snail mail, okay, we'll call it now, the time and effort was really on the sender. Right? They were taking the time to write the letter, to package it up. And now the time is on the receiver, because we're receiving so many. And if you receive 70 to 100, and I know a lot of you are a lot more than I know I am, that a day, that's 18 to 20,000 a year. What else do we do that many times? Breathe. That's it. You know, so it really is about finding ways to reduce some of that. But so, you know, we think email's free. It's not. It's taking up a lot of our time, which we know as entrepreneurs, but we kind of forget that. So our time is money. So where are we going to put that time? What are we going to do with that money? Are we going to be doing the things that are costing us money? Or are we going to put it in our strengths where we need to be putting it? So I kind of feel like there's 3 key success factors. Number 1, really understanding your strengths, understanding what you're good at, understanding what you should be doing and not what you shouldn't be doing. And it's not always about knowing the skill, having the skills, having the knowledge. We can all do that. We can learn something. We can take that. But it's not going to last for long if it's really going against our grain. You know, so I do an assessment, productivity assessment, so people can really understand where they should be putting their time and their effort, because they might not be that person, you know, that is the analytical person, the data person, but we try to do that stuff anyway. So really understanding your strengths is number 1 key. The second is defining your activities. What are those activities, and are they matching up with those strengths? So even if you don't do a time study, you just take the time and list all of your activities. What are all the activities I do in a week? Or if your days are the same, you know, from day in to day out, which most of us entrepreneurs aren't, but, you know, making a list and just keeping track of all those activities. And then using that time strategically. So when you have figured out what those activities are, figuring out what that 20% is. If you take 20 activities and, you know, 10 activities, so let's take 10 activities, that's 2 would be your 20%. Those 2 are 16 times more effective than all those others. So it really is something that is important for us to look at and to deal with. So how do we get all the rest done? You know, I'm telling you, you know, finite, you know, get down to you're only doing, you know, this certain percentage of the task. Who does the rest, right? Who's thinking that? So there are some success factors that you can use. One is planning. So it really is about the planning. Who's going to do it? How's it going to get done? Am I going to do it? Somebody else going to do it? Creating processes. That is number one key to any successful business. Bill talked about it this morning with the E-Myth. It's all about processes, systems, and processes. You know, anybody doesn't know Bill Collier, he has an awesome plan that he helps his clients with, and it's all about the systems and processes and having a system to follow to help your staff, to help you. Letting things go out of, you know, letting go of the control. We talked to a couple people, letting go of the control. And if I can tell you anything about letting go of control is, a lot of times that staff person you might have can do it probably bigger and better than you can. It's just that we feel like we have to control that. And when it comes down to productivity issues, somebody else is going to do it differently than you are. Let them do it differently. Just make sure they understand what the outcome looks like. So if I give you all a jigsaw puzzle, everybody can do that? If I don't give you the top of the box, what's your first thought? Yeah. You know, so if we don't give them the top of the box, if we don't let them see that, then they're probably not going to get to where we want them to go, and then we get frustrated. But if they understand the top of the box and we let them do it their way, they can usually get it done faster and better.
Question over here.
It's not so much a question, but speaking to this issue, because it's very hard to delegate when someone is going to maybe do it different than you. My partner and I, one of us is a parts to a whole, and one of us is a whole to a parts. And so that's very hard, and you'll find as you go, the people that you have working for you or delegating to may get the same result, but they go it a whole different way. So we had to learn, and this is one of the great statements we have that we kind of live by, and that is couples should always work together on separate projects.
Great,
so
love
that's
it.
kind of the same thing.
So, and then the next is support. So having the support that we need. Delegating, is it outsourcing? So in your book, you do have another handout, and as you've realized, this whole presentation's not on, but you'll have access to it. And if anybody actually wants the PowerPoint, they can contact me and I can give it to you. But it's all about having what I call a success operating process. So an SOP. SOP usually stands for Standard Operating Procedures, and I like to change it and say an success operating process, because everything is a process.
And this is page 19.
So the first step is we've got something that we do, we know it works well, and we're always doing it, but nobody else knows how to do it. The first step is to have a process and how they can learn how to do that. And then that's where you can grow your business. When you have operating processes that you can hand someone and say, follow these steps, and they'll do it the exact same way you will do it and get the exact same results. That's when you can hire. That's when you can offshoot things. But when we have it all in our head, and then we expect them to do what we have in our head, and we haven't explained that, it's very difficult. So the more you can create processes and systems and have that as a plan. Now, I've got a couple clients right now that are going through this process, and 2 of them have new trainees, new people that are working for them. And I've told them they're the ones, they don't have any of these built, so have the new trainee, as they're learning, create the process, create the system. Then they can come back to you and you can review it and tweak it. But the problem is, it's one more thing. We got to put it on our list. Oh, we got all these processes we need to create. Another thing that we're going to put off to the side and we're not going to do. But when you have somebody new, they're going to look at it from a fresh set of eyes. They don't know how to do it. So they're going to be much more detailed about that process than you are, because you've just done it for so long. And how many times have you taught somebody something and then later go, oh yeah, I forgot to tell you about that. Or I forgot to tell you about that. So it's really key to have a system and a process that works. So knowing the purpose, so what is the purpose of the process? What are we going to do? How are we going to do it? What is the outcome going to be? And then what is that procedure? When you can use video to create that. I have one client right now. Don't see him in the room, so I can talk about him, I guess. But right now he has some systems, and so we're going to create training videos versus typing all this stuff up, because in some of the procedures that they need, some of them are written, but in this one section, it's going to be much easier for them to see it through video and somebody to watch that and be able to do it than to read and try and do the process. So always keep that in mind. And then who's responsible? The responsibility parties, who's responsible for it? Is it a salesman? Is it, customer service person? And then any resources that need to go in it. So this is going to just give you a guide. If you don't have any standard operating procedures or some SOPs, success operating processes, hopefully this template will at least get you going. Not that you have to use this one, but have something that's consistent. So we want you to free yourself up with some kind of support. So the first to think about when we're trying to offshoot some of this stuff, do I need staff, full-time, part-time? Can I do some help sharing? So you might have someone else who's using somebody part-time that you could use them part-time, So somebody else might have someone. Could use earned internships. Paid and unpaid. There are definitely unpaid internships out there. If you go to internships.com, all you do is post out there what you want, and the people that are looking for interns will come to you. It's internships.com. So I've just had a couple work for me for a short time and did an awesome job. The next is, do I need to outsource it? So maybe I need a virtual assistant, somebody that's going to be helping me virtually. And in my case, I could use those internships. They could be virtual. That's how I was using them. So a freelancer, a specialty entrepreneur, somebody that's good at what they do, that's their specialty. Think about, we tend to think that we always have to do it, or we have to hire the big guys. Think about your other entrepreneur friends and associates that you work with. And then your colleagues, associates, that, a lot of people we network. We don't stop and think, oh yeah, so-and-so does something. Maybe they might know somebody that's in that line of work. So really ask them how your other colleagues, how they take care of whatever issue you want to get rid of. Because that's what we're all here to do, is share and to help each other. Friends, Karen and I have helped each other a lot in a lot of different ways. I have one client, friend, who will get on the phone on Sundays once in a while, and she'll sit on her end and do what she needs to do. I'll sit on mine, and we're just accountability partners. She puts on the music. We got our phones on speakerphone. If she has a question, she can ask me if I have a question, because we have different expertise. So it really has worked out really well. You know, you can always hire a professional, a coach to help you, experts. You'll find quite a few of those around here today. And then bartering, you know. We've talked about bartering earlier this morning. You can barter with a individual that has the same service that you want, or you can barter through a company where you barter your services and then you use it in a totally different way than what you gave it. So there are ways that we can get rid of the things that we should not be doing. It's a matter of taking the time and figuring out what those will be. So when we talk about our traps, again, it's about our thoughts, our roles, our activities that we're doing, the plan and process, and the support that we need. So we're going to take a little time, and I'll turn this back over to Tim. You know, what are the traps that you're willing to commit to? Because we're going to ask you here today to commit.
Yep, like most seminars, E3 is very adamant about making sure everyone leaves with something that's actionable, something we can implement starting tomorrow. So with that point, it's really just an opportunity. We've done a lot of discussion, you've heard a lot of ideas, maybe sharing some things with each other, identified like-mindedness. We're looking for, what do you want to commit to today? What is the one trap, or maybe two at most, that right now in your mind is top of mind? What is the trap that you're willing to say, okay, I am going to focus on this tomorrow? We want to write that down. Take a moment, think about that for a second.
And you can share again with your table mates, and then we're going to do a little bit more discussion around this.
A lot of times you already know what it is, so it's being open. Write it down. Commit. And then when you've identified that trap, what's the one next step you're willing to move forward with it? Because just writing it down is just acknowledging, okay, that's my number one trap. What's the first action step to move you forward that you're willing to commit to address it? Write that down as well. And maybe it's a couple steps.
And we hope that you've enjoyed this session and that you'll enjoy the rest of the day.